Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name is Allie and I have a 1-month-old little girl right now sitting in the swing right over by me, and I am going to talk all about my labor and delivery story. So I have a labor and delivery vlog and I'll have it linked down below, but I didn't talk as much as I wanted to in it. We showed like the hospital and I videoed what I could, but we really wanted to be in the moment and we didn't have a photographer or a videographer, and it was only myself and my husband and then obviously like our nurse and doctors in the delivery room with us, and so we didn't have anyone to film or take pictures, which is what we wanted. So I want to do a sit down story. Also, please don't mind the mattress behind me. We just bought a new one and we're still like in the process of switching it all out, so I'm sorry, but this is my house. Welcome. And I am gonna go over all of my labor and delivery story. So if you're interested, keep watching. Okay, so to start the story off, I was 40 weeks and 3 days and it was a Monday morning, and I had a tentative induction. So I had a scheduled induction for Monday the 12th. And they left it tentative in case oh, squishy girl. In case the labor and delivery was full or they had a lot of like natural inductions come in, they have like the right to push me and not induce me that day. But they said they'd call anywhere from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. If they didn't call by 3, then you call your doctor and kind of see what his plan is or her plan is. But that's kind of like the window. They'd call you, or actually, I'm sorry, anywhere from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. And when they call you, you come in like that next hour. So we went to bed. We were so excited. We were so hopeful. We had, who was all here? Riley's parents had come to town the night before, and my family was all like on standby because they live here. Most of them do. So we went to bed. We woke up at 6:09 a.m. to a phone call from my hospital, and they said, hi, we have your induction scheduled. Get ready, eat breakfast, do whatever you gotta do, but be in here by 7. So we hurried and scurried and got everything ready. We got like kind of ready and grabbed our bags and stuff. We drove and we got to the hospital by 6:45. So we got into the hospital, we got checked in, and we were waiting in the waiting room, and as soon as they came to call my name to take me to like my labor and delivery room to start the induction, like 6 more women and families came in to start their induction. So I'm so happy we got there 15 minutes early, because this birth like could have gone completely different. We could have had a way different nurse, and like it could have just been way different had we gotten there at 7 instead of 6:45, because so many other people came. But I took little notes just so I have a reminder of. Okay, so 6:45 we checked in for about 15 minutes, and then at 7 all the other people came in. I got taken to my room at like 7:05, but all of my paperwork and everything had been completed, which is why I'm so happy we got there early, because they'd already asked us all the questions and everything. So by 7:15, like I literally wrote this while I was in the hospital room, like getting it done. So at 7:15 I was in the room, and the nurse was putting in my IV, and I was group B strep positive, and so I had to have penicillin every 4 hours, and then obviously they were inducing me, so I had Pitocin as well. And I know a couple people were confused because in the birth vlog I said penicillin and they were like, you mean Pitocin? No, I had penicillin and I had Pitocin. So they started 1 bag of penicillin and 1 bag of Pitocin at 7:15, and within like 45 minutes, an hour, 1 bag of penicillin was gone, and then they waited 4 more hours to start a new one. So they started my Pitocin at the lowest it is, I think like a 6. I had been feeling contractions for like 2 weeks. Some of them were 3 to 5 minutes apart for an hour long, but they were not painful at all. And so they always sent me home and said, no, you're not in labor. So by 8 a.m. my bag of penicillin was gone, and then I just had the Pitocin running. And then at 9, Riley's mom got there and had brought us breakfast. And so we hung out with her for a little bit, talked and chatted, and then my mom came, and then Riley's sister and her little boy came. So we had not a full room, but like they're really big labor rooms, and we just had those 4 people with us, just kind of hanging out, playing games and chatting and stuff. My contractions were getting a little bit more intense, but they still weren't hurting because my water hadn't broken yet, which I don't know if that's how it is for everybody, but kind of in my heart I knew once my water breaks, like the contractions are gonna start and it's gonna start hurting, and that's like when I'll start feeling everything. And so I was trying so hard on my own to like get my water to break, like doing squats and bouncing on the ball and walking stairs, but it just did not want to break on its own. So at 9:45 my doctor came in, and that was the first time I'd seen him since like I'd gotten to the hospital. And he was like, he kind of was not frazzled by any means, but kind of just came in and was like, how are you doing? Great, I'll see you at noon and I'll break your water. He starts leaving, he comes back and he's like, wait a minute, you were already 4 centimeters dilated when you came in, right? And I was like, yeah, I haven't been checked in a week. So he's like, okay, great, I'm just gonna break your water right now. Like there's no need to wait until noon. You can get your epidural at any point if you want it. So let's just break your water and get this going. So I'm like, great. So it's 9:45. He did just like a cervix check, but then on his glove he has like a tiny little plastic hook, which I asked the nurse about afterwards because I wasn't sure. I thought he was just going to check me and then was gonna break my water. I didn't know that you could do it all at once because I had heard you had to use like a little plastic hook. I didn't know it was on his glove. So he went in and checked and broke my water, and he was like, okay, you're 6 centimeters, broke my water. And I thought I just had peed on him. Like I didn't know what was happening. I did not think he had broke my water because it didn't hurt literally at all. Like I thought he just was checking my cervix because I had had like 4 of them before. And then he walked away, and I looked at my nurse and I was like, is my water broken now? And someone behind me was like, no, he just checked you. And she was like, no, your water's broken, like he just broke your water. He's like, great, you're 6 centimeters and 100% effaced, so your contractions are gonna start and it'll be great. I'll come back in like 2 hours and check on you. And I had my nurse with me, so I was like, great. So then after they broke my water, which like everybody was in the room for it, like it just wasn't a big deal, he left. We kind of kept talking with my nurse. We saw a couple family members in there. My contractions were starting to get stronger, but I only had them in my back. Like I wasn't really feeling any like stomach contractions. I just was having like back labor, back pain. It was like achy and just really annoying. So by like 11, I couldn't talk through them. Not that I was like clenching the bed and like breathing through them, because they weren't like stomach contractions. It was just like backache. So I was just like rolling around like this. It just like not talking through them. So my mom and Riley's mom were like, if you're gonna get an epidural, like if that's your birth plan, then you should just get it. Like there's no need to suffer through all of these contractions. Like if you want your epidural, like don't wait too long. Like get your epidural. If that's what you're gonna do, like get it whenever you want. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I called my nurse and I'm like, hey, can we like put me on the list for an epidural? And she's like, yep. The anesthesiologist just went in to do another one, so it'll be like 30 minutes before she's in your room. But in 30 minutes, she'll be in your room with everything set up. So I was like, great. So 11:30 comes, and I was sitting there getting the epidural. And honestly, the epidural was the worst part of giving birth, which is crazy to me. But I was sitting there getting it. My anesthesiologist wasn't the nicest lady. She kind of was like more gruff and like stern. And I know you can't move when you're getting your epidural. I know that. She told me, and I've heard that before. But when something's getting poked in your back, or you're not expecting it, or something's zinging in your spine, like you kind of jump. And she kept getting really mad at me. She's like, you can't move. You have to stop moving. Honey, stop moving. And it wasn't like it. At least to me, it didn't feel like she was like, okay, like you need to stop moving. I know that you don't know what's going on, but like you have to try to be still. It was like, stop moving. And so I'm sitting there holding the pillow with my back arched. My nurse is like hugging me, and Riley's holding my feet are on his legs, and he's like holding my legs and like trying to comfort me. And I'm literally just sitting there with the pillow sobbing, because it wasn't hurting. Like, it was uncomfortable, but I cry because I'm like scared or emotional or I don't feel good, and I had no idea what was going on. It was kind like a couple of things were kind of painful, like the medicine, and like a couple of things like were really zingy on certain sides. And then if I moved, she would get mad at me. And so like it was just really stressful and scary, and I guess I didn't know what to expect. Like, everyone always says it just feels like a little bee sting, but like once it's in, it's so worth it. But I guess they don't really talk about like how many times they say something's going in, and then like, here's the medicine, here's a little zing, okay, here's a little pinch, okay, here's this, here's that. And so I just like was so scared, I guess, and I just was sobbing through the whole thing, which was like really traumatic for me because I had such a good pregnancy, such a good labor up until this point, and even that wasn't even that bad. It just was like coming to me, I'm like, I'm gonna have a baby soon, and I have no idea what to expect, and this is scary. So I just was sobbing. So once it was done, I couldn't feel anything. Like, my legs were so heavy I couldn't move them by myself. I literally had to have Riley and the nurse like slide them around in the bed. And then it started coming up here. So, hi beautiful girl. So they tell you all the things. You can get a spinal headache, you can get like it can work too well and it can come up your chest. It cannot work on one side, it can pool in your butt, and so then you have to like have someone move your legs around and like lay back down so that, I mean, obviously you don't get up and walk, but like they like shift your legs and like change the bed position so that it doesn't like sit in one spot. Like, there's a lot of things that can happen with an epidural, and mine happened to like feel like it was coming up my chest. So 10 minutes after I get my epidural, I'm feeling good, we're laughing, we're talking again, and honestly, like, I wasn't ever like crying or really that in pain because it was just backaches, which I've had before, because when I had my period I only ever got backaches. I never had stomach cramps, and so I mean, I felt backaches before. They're super uncomfortable, but I know how to like manage and moan my way through them rather than a contraction, which I've really never felt like a full-on like uterine stomach contraction until now. So I wasn't like, it never was that bad, but I had my epidural, I didn't feel anything, and so I thought everything was going good, except for I went to scratch my belly and I couldn't really feel it, and that was like really freaky to me. And then I tried coughing and I literally couldn't contract my lungs to make the motion. Like, I literally went even though I was trying to cough, and I immediately pressed my nurse's button. I'm like, I can't breathe. It's hard to breathe. I can't control it. What's going on? I was like, it feels like my epidural's like coming up. Like, I don't know what to do. And so we sat my bed up a little bit more. She stayed in the room with me. And after like 20-25 minutes, it finally like went down a little bit more. I could breathe, I could cough. But that was really scary. Like, my mom and Riley's mom came back in and I kind of talked to them about it, and like it just was scary because I was like, I don't want to start pushing and like not be able to breathe. Like, what if I can't breathe? What if I'm gonna die? What if I'm gonna pass out? Like, it honestly was very scary because I didn't think I could control my breathing. But then my nurse said, you feel like you can't, but they had like the oxygen monitor on me, and she's like, you feel like you can't breathe, and that is really scary, but your like oxygen levels are great, you are breathing, you are controlling it, it just feels like you can't, which I understand. So she stayed with me for a little bit, but then it all like settled and went away, and I could breathe and everything was fine. And then my doctor came back in at 1 and he checked me and he was like 8, 9, like he didn't really give me a specific number, but I was 8-9 centimeters dilated, 100% effaced, completely like getting, like I was almost ready to say, but we'll start pushing within the hour. So they told me to wait until I felt pressure in my butt. So instead of contractions, like once you start feeling pressure, like you either have to go to the bathroom or you want to push, that's when we'll start pushing. So I started feeling a little bit, started feeling a little bit, gets to about 2 o'clock and I'm like, I'm feeling pressure. I'm like, okay, great. So at 2 o'clock, Riley, the nurse, and myself were the only ones in the room, and I started pushing. And I pushed for about an hour. I was having a hard time feeling my contractions, and so unless the nurse was telling me when it started, I kind of like hit the tail end. So I'd miss the beginning of it, then we'd push, and they had me do 3 pushes per contraction. So hold your breath, push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take another breath, push for 10 more seconds, another breath, 10 more seconds, and then you wait until the next contraction. But I was missing the front end of my contraction, so I was hitting 1 push, 2 push, and then the contraction was over and I was doing the 3rd push, and I was like kind of working against my contraction, so I wasn't really getting anywhere. So about after an hour and a half, finally they could see her head enough to where that she called my doctor. He came immediately in with the resident doctor who he was like training, or he was shadowing him or whatever. And hi, beautiful. Hold on, I'm gonna get her. So then the doctor came in, my doctor came in, and they like got everything ready for her to be delivered. And I kept pushing, but I was still hitting the tail end. Like, I was feeling so much pressure, and like, oh man, like her head was down there for a while, and it was it was really pressury, and I still couldn't feel my contractions. So I would say, can I push? And they'd be like, when you have a contraction, and I would repeatedly had to say, I can't feel them. Like, can you tell me when they're coming? I can't feel them. So finally we kind of got in the groove of them saying, okay, push. And then it started working, and I finally was getting her places. So they were like, okay, Allie, like you have to keep pushing, you have to keep pushing, push through this, push through this. And it was another hour and a half of, oh, good burp. It was another hour and a half of pushing with my doctor. So I pushed for an hour with the nurse, and we waited a little bit, but then I pushed for an hour and a half with my doctor, and then at 4:33 my little princess was born. Oh, and in between there, so every 4 hours they gave me more penicillin. So I had it at 11, and then I had it again at 3, just to like make sure she would like be the healthiest possible. And I don't know if this is how it is for everybody, but I wish someone would have told me that once they pull her out, once she comes out, literally all of the pain goes away. Like, this is TMI and probably gross to some people. Like, once her head came out, they just pulled her out. And once they pulled her out, that was the best feeling in the world. Like, it was the most satisfying relief ever. It felt so good. Oh, hallelujah. And they handed me my little like gushy, mushy little baby, and it was so magical and beautiful and wonderful. And then I delivered the placenta, which I felt, and then my doctor was like, okay, you have a 2nd-degree tear, you have a really big hemorrhoid, and there's something else. So they were like stitching me up and doing all that stuff, and I could feel all of it. Every single stitch, everything. And my doctor told my nurse, he was like, just take her epidural out right now. Like, take the bag, like unhook the bag and everything. The epidural's not working, she's feeling everything, and she has been. So I'm holding my little precious baby, like in La La Land, hearing my doctor being like, yeah, your epidural stopped working. And I was like, oh, wonderful. So she shows me up, takes the epidural out. Oh my gosh, the tape coming off, like that's the only thing that hurt about getting the epidural removed was the tape. But so she was born, I got stitched up, everything was great. Then you like try to stand up after an hour of doing skin to skin and go to the bathroom, so they can like move you upstairs and make sure everything is, the postpartum floor is a different floor obviously, so they like make you stand up, make sure everything's going well, and then they take you upstairs. So I stood up to go to the bathroom. She helped me. We kind of went over like how to do everything. And then I said, I heard the doctor say that my epidural stopped working. Like, how long do you think it stopped working? Or what? And she said, well, like while you were pushing out the baby, you, like my husband, I had him push the button to get more epidural a couple of times because I was feeling everything so strongly. Like just down there, the pressure was so strong. But, and even while they're stitching me up, we pressed the button again, and it just, I don't know what happened. I still don't understand, but it kind of just stopped working. It didn't fall out. We were pressing the button. I don't know, like they just said, so my nurse was like, I'm not really sure when, but it just kind of stopped working, I guess. And so honestly, knowing that now, I don't know if I'll get an epidural for the next baby. Every labor and delivery is going to be different, but this little gorgeous girl was born at 4:33 and we got in the hospital at 7 a.m. So it was a pretty quick labor. The delivery was 2.5 hours long. I pushed for 2.5 hours, but it was such a good experience. It was so amazing. I had an awesome hospital and my doctor was fantastic, but also like I've always wanted to be a mom. It was everything I could have hoped for and more. Like it was phenomenal. I'm very happy. I'm really grateful that it went the way that it did. She was born at 20.5 inches, I think is what they said. 20.5 inches and 8 pounds exactly. How beautiful. She had the biggest cone head I've ever seen in my life. Like when we got her measured a couple days later, she lost an inch. Like it was such a big cone head. And oh man, there's a lot of stories about what happened once she was born. She had jaundice, the blood type that I have versus the blood type that she has. Some of my blood like got into her system, and they had to make sure that like her and our antibodies don't work together. So they had to make sure that her blood cells weren't killing themselves and making her anemic. I mean, we had an awesome recovery in the hospital, but like a lot of things happened afterwards, and I can talk about those in another video. I'm sure that I will, but this was my labor and delivery story, and I really am grateful for the way that it was. I loved it. If you guys want to hear about my recovery and some of the wonderful stories of the nurses that we had, I would love to make a story time on that too. That was a lot of fun, and I think my doctor made a lot of really good decisions. The nurses didn't necessarily agree with them. They had a lot of shade to throw at my doctor because he was private practice and didn't like run through that hospital, even though that's like the only, like he wouldn't deliver any other hospital. He only delivers at that one. But he's not like a hospital employed like doctor. Oh yeah. So they had some shade to throw at him and some of the decisions that he made. But my recovery was perfect. It was so smooth. It was honestly pretty easy because of some of the decisions and things that he had implemented in my plan. So I had an awesome doctor, a great delivery. The recovery was awesome, but we had some funny nurses, and then we had a lot happen with her, which I wish now, looking back on it, I wish I would have vlogged it. But going through it with your first baby and having to go to the hospital every day to get labs done, and like we had to have a Billy bed brought to us for her jaundice so that we could get like her jaundice levels down. She lost a good amount of weight, which she has very much gained back since then. So she's great, she's perfect right now. But the first like week and a half, we had a lot happening, and I'm really grateful Riley took that whole week off. But if you guys want to know about all of that, we haven't even shared, like I don't even think I shared on Instagram that she had jaundice or like what we had to do to get rid of it. So I mean, there's a lot still that hasn't been shared. So if you guys want to know it, let me know. But that was my labor and delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'd love to read, I know it's a lot to type out, so if you have like just a brief synapse of it or whatever, I'd love to read how your guys' experiences were. If you've had a baby, if you haven't but you're scared about it, like just leave me questions or comments down below. I love chatting with you guys. Oh gosh, she's so pretty. I don't know how to like formally introduce her because she's already been introduced from Instagram, so I'm just gonna hold her up even though she's so sleepy. This is my little girl. Her name's Oakland Riley Levitt. We did give her daddy's name for her middle name. We love it. It's so precious. Oakland is because we couldn't choose between Oakland and Oakley, and since we were going with Riley for her middle name, we chose Oakland. She has a million nicknames already, and she's just perfect. So I am gonna do a 1 month update on her because she's 1 month today, and I'm gonna do a postpartum update as well. So those will be coming, but this was just all about labor and delivery. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.